We're super lucky to have a time to interview artist Jordan Kasey at her studio in New York. Hi, Jordan.
Hi, Bridget.
So, Jordan, when did you start making art?
I have always made art as far as I can remember. I think it started when I was a toddler, scribbling with markers, and then I was constantly drawing as a kid, making up like imaginary worlds, and it was always sort of an escape for me as I grew up. Um, and yeah, in high school I started um, painting and doing other sorts of art in art class. And then, yeah, I went to college for art, for painting with Bridget. And then I just kept painting after school. Yeah, it's just something I always liked to do, and it happened really naturally, I guess.
Yeah. So I think that kind of answers our next question, but what's your favorite medium to use? I know that you said you're a painter, but you also use other materials, right?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, I mostly use paint, oil paint. I make large oil paintings, but I love working with charcoal as well. Um, I think I'm really interested in light, and charcoal drawing can have like a luminosity to it that is always um, fun for me to play with. Or working from observation opposed to working from imagination, that all kind of like feeds back into it, because I do usually work from imagination. So if I do some drawing from life, it makes me think more about the reality of like textures and forms, that sort of gets lost if I'm just sort of trying to be like, what would that look like, you know?
Yeah, totally. I think, yeah, drawing from observation really helps kind of get your mind structured in a different way, too. And you've always had a really amazing sketchbook. Do you still keep a sketchbook regularly?
I do. I always draw. I wouldn't call it really amazing, but for me is important because it's a place to feel totally unself-conscious. Like mostly people don't really see what's in there. I can kind of, if I'm stuck on a painting, I can kind of make some doodles to try and work it out. Or if I do want to something from observation or something like outside of my normal practice, I don't need to like present it as like, this is what I do. It's just sort of a place to like work through stuff, or like make really terrible, like ugly doodles that no one needs to see, or just, yeah, work through things, and yeah, in like a quick way that that's like contained in a book, so it's there.
Yeah, it's kind of like a private space for artists.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Do you do writing in your sketchbook?
I don't know. Some people do. It's kind of whatever you want. I do writing in like other books, like more journal sort of books, which I also think is helpful. It's almost like doing a different kind of drawing. It just like opens your mind in a different way, and is a totally other way to like think through things and be not self-conscious about like working through your own thoughts and stuff. So I think that's also been helpful for me.
Would you be able to show us a few of the paintings or pieces of art that you're working on in your studio?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, first maybe I'll say a couple words about my process, which is that I work pretty slowly. I start a painting by just sort of like throwing down an idea really quickly, and filling that in, and then the colors, the entire composition just changes for a while before I sort of like get locked into like a finished idea. There's also things where like certain layers will go down just so that something else can go over it, and then maybe it'll get scraped away. It's a lot of like experimentation and like trial and error to like finally get to the final piece. So a lot of the times when they're in progress, it's kind of hard to tell what's going on. But come with me. And yeah, so let's see what we're gonna show here is it's like a woman sitting on a couch and there's some lightning storm in the background and hair is blowing in her face. But there's some stuff like the couch itself has this colorful sort of pattern that's all going to get covered up by black, but then parts of it will be scraped away, so some of the colors will show through. So this is just, that's sort of a bit of the process I was talking about, that is like, it looks a certain way now that doesn't really have much to do with what it will look like. Or here's a painting that I recently like changed the whole composition on, which can sort of get an idea for
we pull it back a little bit so we could see.
Yeah, so it's like,
oh wow, cool.
It's like sort of, this one's sort of hard to tell. It's like some sort of maybe trapeze thing. Sorry, there we go. With the feet flying through the air, and then there's gonna be like clouds out the window, and I don't know, I was thinking of having like a green window pane, and then it sort of turned into a red window pane, and now I don't really know what's going on, but got really muddy, and then there's sort of this. They're good. Yeah, these are all in these really smudgy stages. These I was like, oh, maybe these tiles will be red, or some will be blue, and then they sort of, I'm like, oh, I want them to be turquoise, but I need them to dry first. But yeah, anyway, like, and then there's this painting I've been working on since July, and I'm like really struggling with it. There's like, just this morning I was painting these floor tiles different colors. They used to all be pink and black, but this is like,
ooh, yeah, cool.
It's like that. Anyway, this is a finished painting, which is easier to, oh, let's see.
Ooh, cool.
There, it's trying to get it squared off in the
computer screen.
It's not easy.
Wow, that's beautiful.
There we go, kind of. It's a person along with some fruits, and it's like sunset time. And another thing that's pretty like important to me is the texture of the paint. I don't know if you can like tell.
Yeah.
This is like done with the palette knife, and then like this is done with brushes, the hand and stuff, or like the pear here is also done with the palette knife, but using the other side of it.
Yeah, the surfaces are always so beautiful in your paintings.
Thank you. But yeah, that's another thing. Once the composition and the colors are figured out, I sort of start making choices about the texture. And yeah, this one sort of has a red light and blue light, and then there's the sunset window. And for scale, you can kind of see like that's the hand in the painting, and that's my hand, so it's bigger, larger than life, the figures. But yeah, that's a little tour of what's going on here now. I think, though, I have gone through different phases. Like, there were times when I got really obsessed with having this really smooth surface, and I was like, oh, okay, I want to have a smooth, like very flat surface. And then I kind of like I went as far as I could go with that, and then I suddenly just like hated it and started being like, that's when I started thinking more about incorporating more texture, allowing the mistakes that happen to happen, and even like embracing them as part of the process. And because before then I think I was more concerned about like figuring out the whole painting before I started it, and then being a perfectionist with it while I worked on it. And I think pushing myself really far in that direction allowed me to like explore it as much as I needed to and realize it wasn't what I wanted to do. And I feel like that sort of lesson applies to Many things, probably.
We talk a lot about making mistakes and embracing mistakes and figuring out how to incorporate those into your process.
Yeah.
So you've also, as far as the artists who I've known, you've always had a really amazing work ethic. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what a day in the studio is like for you.
I love working. I love painting. Like, it's something I really like to do, and I kind of go nuts if I don't have something I'm working on. So for me, it's less about disciplining myself and more about being able to do this as much as I can. Because during college and after college, for many years, I always had jobs in addition to this, and I would like go, after work, I would come to my studio and work on stuff, and like in college, I would like work on the weekends and stuff, like in the studio, I think for me, it's just like I just love painting and I love making stuff, and it's still like the escape for me that it was, when I was young, and it's like something that like, yeah, it's just part of my life, I guess.
Good answer. You're an artist full time now, which is so cool. What is that like for you compared? You kind of explained a little bit about that already, but what's that like for you?
Oh yeah, and for me, it's a lot of time alone, which is actually hard part of it. Especially at first when I stopped going to my day job, I kind of missed being around people all day. But I will go back and say a typical day in the studio is like I'll get here and I like to already know what I'm going to be working on in the day, like which painting I'm going to work on and what I'm going to do with it before I get here, so that by the time I'm here, I'm like excited about it and I've already been thinking about it, like, oh, I'm going to change those tiles today, that'll be awesome. I hate how they look. I'm so excited to try something else with them, that type of thing. And then I just sort of work on it and I listen to music and then I eat lunch, work a little more.
How many hours do you generally spend in the studio?
Between like usually 3 to 8, usually around 5 or 6 hours. Yeah, I don't have a very set schedule for myself, and I think a big part of like being a full-time artist is like figuring out what sort of scheduling works for you. Like some people really like having like specific hours they're in, but yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing your studio and your artwork and your space with us. That was great.
Bridget, yeah, I'm honored.
Bye, thanks, Jordan.